हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा जय राधा विनोद राधे। जय जगन्नाथ जय बलदेवा जय सुभद्रमय जय सुदर्शना। जय गौरनिताय गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय। जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद। जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर श्री श्रीमद हिज डिवाइन ग्रेस अभय चरणारविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी महाराज शील प्रभुपाद की जय। इस्कॉन फाउंडर आचार्य बीबीटी फाउंडर आचार्य सेव द होल वर्ल्ड जगत गुरु शील प्रभुपाद की जय। जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर श्री श्रीमद हिज डिवाइन ग्रेस भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज शील प्रभुपाद की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद्भागवतम की जय। निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवत्युत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकीनन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविंदाय नमो नमः. Hare Krishna. Welcome to everybody for today's morning Srimad Bhagavatam class. We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 9, which is entitled Dhruva Maharaj Returns Home. Dhruvastuti, text number 16, 4916. Yasmin viruddhagatayah hi anisham patanti vidya adayah विविधशक्तयः आनुपूर्व्यात् तत् ब्रह्म विश्वभवम् एकम् अनन्तम् आद्यम् आनन्दमात्रम् अविकारम् अहम् प्रपद्ये यस्मिन् विरुद्धगतयो ह्यनिशं पतन्ति विद्यादयो विविधशक्तयानुपूर्व्यात् तद्ब्रह्म विश्वभवमेकमनन्तमाद्यम् आनन्दमात्रमविकारमहं प्रपद्ये यस्मिन् विरुद्धगतयो ह्यनिशं पतन्ति विद्यादयो विविधशक्तयानुपूर्व्यात् तद्ब्रह्म विश्वभवमेकमनन्तमाद्यम् आनन्दमात्रमविकारमहं प्रपद्ये यस्मिन् विरुद्धगतयो ह्यनिशं पतन्ति विद्यादयो विविधशक्तयानुपूर्व्यात् तद्ब्रह्म विश्वभवमेकमनन्तमाद्यम् आनन्दमात्रमविकारमहं प्रपद्ये यस्मिन् विरुद्धगतयो ह्यनिशं पतन्ति विद्यादयो विविधशक्तयानुपूर्व्यात् तद्ब्रह्म विश्वभवमेकमनन्तमाद्यम् आनन्दमात्रमविकारमहं प्रपद्ये विरुद्धगतयो ह्यनिशं पतन्ति विद्यादयो विविधशक्तयानुपूर्व्यात् तद्ब्रह्म विश्वमेकमनन्तमाद्यम् आनन्दमात्रमविकारमहं प्रपद्ये यस्मिन् विरुद्धगतयो ह्यनिशं पतन्ति विद्यादयो विविधशक्तयानुपूर्व्यात् तद्ब्रह्म विश्वभवमेकमनन्तमाद्यम् आनन्दमात्रमविकारमहं प्रपद्ये. माताजी. यस्मिन् विरुद्धगतयो ह्यनिशं पतन्ति विद्यादयो विविधशक्तयानुपूर्व्यात् तद्ब्रह्म विश्वभवमेकमनन्तमाद्यम् आनन्दमात्रमविकारमहं प्रपद्ये. यस्मिन् विरुद्धगतयो ह्यनिशं पतन्ति विद्यादयो विविधशक्तयानुपूर्व्यात् तद्ब्रह्म विश्वभवमेकमनन्तमाद्यम् Anandamatramavikaramaham prapadye. Word to word meaning. Yasmin, in whom. Viruddhagatayah, of opposite character. He, certainly. Anisham, always. Patanti, are manifest. Vidya adayah, knowledge and ignorance, etc. Vividha, various. Shaktayah, energies. Anupurvyat, continually. Tat, that. Brahma, Brahman. Vishwabhavam, the cause of material creation. Ekam, one. Anantam, unlimited. Adyam, original. Anandamatram, simply blissful. Avikaram, changeless. Aham, I. Prapadye, offer my obeisances. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. My dear Lord, in your impersonal manifestation of Brahman, there are always two opposing elements, knowledge and ignorance. Your multi-energies are continually manifest, but the impersonal Brahman, which is undivided, original, changeless, unlimited, and blissful, is the cause of the material manifestation. Because you are the same impersonal Brahman, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Purport. In the Brahma Samhita, it is said that the unlimited impersonal Brahman is the effulgence of the transcendental body of Govinda. In that unlimited effulgent aura of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there are innumerable universes with innumerable planets of different categories. Although the Supreme Person is the original cause of all causes, his impersonal effulgence, known as Brahman, is the immediate cause of the material manifestation. Dhruva Maharaj therefore offered his respectful obeisances unto the impersonal feature of the Lord. One who realizes this impersonal feature can enjoy the unchangeable Brahmananda, described here as spiritual bliss. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur describes that this impersonal feature or Brahman manifestation of the Supreme Lord is meant for persons who are essentially very advanced but still not able to understand the personal features of variegatedness of the spiritual world. Such devotees are known as Jnana Mishra Bhaktas or devotees whose devotional service is mixed with empiric knowledge. Because the impersonal Brahman realization is a partial understanding of the absolute truth, Dhruva Maharaj offers his respectful obeisances. It is said that this impersonal Brahman is the distant realization of the absolute truth. Although apparently Brahman seems to be devoid of energy, factually it has different energies working under the headings of knowledge and ignorance. On account of these different energies, there is continually a manifestation of Vidya and Avidya. Vidya and Avidya are very nicely described in Ishopanishad. It is said there that sometimes, due to Avidya or a poor fund of knowledge, one accepts the absolute truth as ultimately impersonal. But in fact, the impersonal and personal realizations develop in proportion to development of devotional service. The more we develop our devotional service, the more closely we approach the absolute truth, which in the beginning, when we realize the absolute truth from a distant place, is manifest as impersonal. People in general who are under the influence of avidya shakti or maya have neither knowledge nor devotion. But when a person who is a little advanced and is therefore called a jnani advances even more, he is in the category of jnana mishra bhakta or a devotee whose love is mixed with empiric knowledge. When he is still further advanced, he can realize that the absolute truth is a person with multi energies. An advanced devotee can understand the Lord and his creative energy. As soon as one accepts the creative energy of the absolute truth, the six opulences of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are also understood. Devotees who are still further advanced in full knowledge can understand the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. Only on that platform can one fully enjoy transcendental bliss. An example is given in this connection by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur of a person proceeding towards a destination. As he approaches, he sees the destination from a distant place, just as we see a city from a distance. At that time, he simply understands that the city is situated at a distance. When, however, he comes still nearer, he sees the domes and the flags. But as soon as he enters the city, he sees various paths, gardens, lakes, and marketplaces with shops and persons buying. He sees varieties of cinema houses and he sees dancing and jubilation. When a person actually enters the city and personally sees the activities of the city, he becomes satisfied. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नम ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिन्निति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे नमो महावदान्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नाम्ने गौरत्विषे नमः हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्ता राधा कान्ता नमोऽस्तुते तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा. Welcome everybody for today's morning Srimad Bhagavatam class, Sunday morning Srimad Bhagavatam class. I seek everybody's blessings to speak on this verse. I'm completely unqualified. Somehow at the last moment it was decided. So I seek everybody's blessings in order to speak something on this very beautiful verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So we are continuing Dhruva Stuti, which is the prayers of Dhruva Maharaj. Since last many months we have been discussing this prayers of Srimad Bhagavatam, prayers of Dhruva Maharaj, which is encapsulated in the Srimad Bhagavatam, is in the 9th chapter of the 4th canto, and the first 17 verses. So this today's verse is the penultimate verse, and the next verse also is the prayer, and then after that the narration continues. So 17 verses of Dhruva Stuti, which are like the essence of the entire Dhruva Charitra. So chapters 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. 5 chapters describe this Dhruva Charitra, means the pastimes of Dhruva Maharaj. And in these 5 chapters, these few verses, 17 verses, are considered the essence of the entire pastime. And it is not just with this pastime. Every pastime it is the same. Every pastime is told, and then the essence of that pastime is contained in the prayers, which form a part of those of that pastime. So therefore, the prayers form the essence of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And the message of the Bhagavatam is also contained within the prayers of the Srimad Bhagavatam. The message of the Bhagavatam is contained within the prayers of the Srimad Bhagavatam. I was hearing just a few days ago that for all the followers of Sanatana Dharma, the ultimate pramana is the 4 Vedas. That's why everybody is called Vaidika. The term Vaidika comes from the Veda. So everybody's ultimate pramana is the Veda. But the Vedas are not very easy to understand, and it is huge. It is humongous. Nobody is qualified enough to study the Vedas unless and until maybe somebody is like Damodar. Damodar is not there here. Who from a small age, from a young age, is into that field. Otherwise, all of us, it is hopeless for us to attempt to even study the Vedas. So therefore, the Vedic literature is summarized in the Vedanta, it is said. Vedanta refers to the Upanishads. So the Upanishads contain the essence of the Veda. And every Veda, Rig, Yaju, Sama and Atharva Veda, they contain a few Upanishads. And totally there are 108 Upanishads. And the essence of that Veda is contained in those particular Upanishads. And the Upanishads are not very easy to understand also. Many of us must have studied the Ishavasya Upanishad, Ishopanishad, right? It is not very easy to read and understand ourselves. We need somebody to teach us. And in the Upanishads, generally, the absolute truth is referred to in the third person. Tad dure, tad vantike, tanne jati, tannai jati, tad dure, tad vantike, tadu sarvasya bhahyatah, tadantarasya sarvasya, tadu sarvasya bhahyatah. This is the famous verse from the Ishopanishad. In the entire verse, there is not one single name of the Supreme Lord denoted. Tat means that. Maybe the English word that comes from Tat only, I think. So that absolute truth is neither near nor far, is neither inside nor outside. So with this kind of description, how can we understand? It is very cryptic, as they say. It is very cryptic to try to understand the Upanishads by reading ourselves. But even with a qualified teacher, sometimes it becomes very difficult. So therefore, one Acharya explains that the Veda and the Vedanta, they presented themselves in the form of Itihasas and Puranas, which contain the stories, beautiful pastimes of the Supreme Lord and his pure devotees. The Itihasas and Puranas contain the same Vedic message, but in a manner that anybody can relate and anybody can easily understand, because everybody likes pastimes, stories, just right from a small child till an elderly person who is about to leave his body, maybe. Everybody likes to hear stories. All of us, as soon as we, even within the Bhagavatam class, when any story or a pastime is told, immediately our attention is fixed. But if I'm speaking like this, everybody will fall asleep with just the philosophy. The philosophy, maybe it distances us, but pastimes, they attract us. So therefore, the Veda and Vedanta, they presented themselves as the Itihasas and Puranas. There is one famous verse which Prabhupada quotes sometimes, Itihasa Puranabhyam Vedam Sam Upabrahmayet. That means that Brahma is one of the words which indicates the Veda. Brahma actually refers to many. It can refer to the soul. It can refer to many things, but one of the meanings is Veda. And Itihasas and Puranas are called Upabrahma. Upabrahma means that which takes us very near to the Vedas and which helps us understand the Vedic message very properly. That is the Upabrahma. And amongst the Itihasas and Puranas also, Jiva Goswami says in the Tattva Sandarbha that there is one small difference, that in the Itihasas are Ramayana and Mahabharata. So these two Itihasas, the incidents that are described or the pastimes that are described are chronological. That means that, for example, in the Ramayana, there is a Balakand, and then there is Ayodhya Kand, then there is Aranyakand. So everything is chronological. As Rama, Lakshmana, Bharata, Shatrughna, they appeared, and then what happened? Everything is described, event after event, chronologically. But in the Puranas, for example, the Bhagavatam, it is not necessarily the case. Why? Because Jiva Goswami says that the message of the Puranas and especially the message of the Bhagavatam is more important than the chronology. For example, in the first canto itself, we see there are two very famous stutis in the first canto, right? Which are they? Kunti Stuti and Bhishma Stuti. In fact, Bhishma Stuti comes before Kunti Stuti in the order of chronology. Correct, no? Bhishma offers his prayers and still Krishna is there. And when Krishna is leaving, that time Kunti goes and that time Kunti offers her prayers. Correct, no? But Kunti Stuti appears before. In the 8th chapter, there is the Kunti Stuti. And then in the 9th chapter, there is Bhishma Stuti. Because Jiva Goswami says that the message is more important than the chronology of the pastimes themselves. So therefore, the message of the Bhagavatam is contained within the prayers of the Bhagavatam. So the message becomes very clear when we read the prayers of the Srimad Bhagavatam. I remember when first time I started reading Srimad Bhagavatam, whenever there was pastime, I used to read with lot of great attention and with lot of full absorption. But whenever there were prayers, first prayer I read, but after that, it seemed repetitive. And then I used to skip and then go next to the next pastime related verses, right? But it is actually that defeats the very purpose of the Srimad Bhagavatam, because the pastime is told in order that we understand what the message of the pastime which is contained within the prayers associated with the same pastime, right? So in that sense, it is not that the pastime or the details of the pastime are unimportant, but definitely the prayers are more important than the pastime itself. That's how Jiva Goswami explains. So anyway, so coming to this particular stuti, which is the Dhruva stuti, which is contained in the 4th canto, a very beautiful 17 verses, which contains the prayers of Dhruva Maharaj. All of us know the context behind this, that Dhruva, after leaving his home, he is on his way and he meets Narada in the forest, and Narada, he instructs him in the Dvadashakshari mantra, which is Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And then Dhruva goes to Madhuvan in Vrindavan, and then he starts his austerities, right? And his austerities are also described to be very, very, very difficult for even to fathom, for all of us to fathom. Very, very difficult austerities. Described that the first month he was taking fruits and berries in 3 days, if I'm not wrong. 3 days, once in 3 days. 3 days means not all the 3 days. Once in 3 days, he used to take fruits and berries. And then second month, once in 6 days, he used to take, I think, grass and leaves or something like that. And then the third month, once in 9 days. So the number of days also increasing, and the what is taking, that is also, coming down and down. First he used to take fruits, at least some solid. Then he moved down to grass and leaves. And the third month, once in 9 days, he was taking just water. So now he came down to liquids. And fourth month, once in 12 days, he used to just breathe. Means he used to take air. And fifth and sixth months, he stopped doing that also. So for him, even breathing was sense gratification in the fifth and the sixth months, right? So one of the very senior most sannyasis in ISKCON today, he was saying that once when he was in New Vrindavan, at that time, this 4th canto came out. Only the 3rd canto was in print till then, till the 3rd canto, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. But when he was in New Vrindavan, that time the 4th canto came in print. And when when all of the devotees in ISKCON read this Dhruva Maharaj pastime, they got so inspired and they started doing everything like Dhruva Maharaj. So he was saying, this sannyasi was saying in one of his lectures that once he used to get up at 1 o'clock in the morning, 1 o'clock. So when he took his bath and he was returning, he saw 3 or 4 devotees standing in Vrikshasana, means in one leg. And then they were chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, standing in Vrikshasana, right? So then after that, the same Maharaj, he was explaining that if we are not, very careful in observing what the message of this entire pastime is, which is actually contained in the prayers, then we'll get carried away by simply the details of the pastimes, which we are not supposed to do, and we cannot do also. We cannot imitate such great souls as Dhruva Maharaj or Prahlad. It is impossible to even imagine to imitate these kinds of souls, right? So anyway, so Dhruva Maharaj executed a lot of austerities, and finally, he stopped breathing, and then nobody could breathe, and then finally the Lord gave his assurance to the Devatas that I will take care of this. And then finally he came in front of Dhruva, and then immediately Dhruva, he lost his meditation in his heart. And then he opened his eyes and he saw the beautiful form of the Lord. And then it is explained that Dhruva could not even say anything at that point in time, because he was completely flabbergasted by this spectacular darshan of the Lord. He forgot everything. Nothing was coming out of his mouth. And then immediately the Lord touches his conch shell on the top of Dhruva's head. Kripamayam prema mayena kambuna. Kambu is the conch shell. So he touches his conch shell, and then Dhruva starts offering his prayers. So we have studied the first 15 prayers, which starts with the very famous verse, Yonta pravishya mama vacham imam prasuptam, which is actually recited by many of the Bhagavatam speakers before they start their Bhagavatam class also. So now we have come to the 16th verse. This 16th verse is another special verse. Why? Because till now, in the first 15 verses, Dhruva Maharaj actually glorified the personal attributes of the Supreme Lord. And in this 16th verse, he is glorifying the impersonal attribute of the Supreme Lord, the 16th verse. So this verse is a special verse. Why? Because as Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says in his commentary, Savishesham Bhagavat Swarupam Uktva. Till now, he has glorified the Vishesha. Vishesha means the attributes of the Supreme Lord. Now, what is about to do is that Nirvishesha Brahma Swarupam Aha. Now, he is going to glorify the impersonal Brahman. So now, as soon as we hear this impersonal Brahman, because we have been trained very rigidly in ISKCON, we think that, hey, wow, should I study this prayer or not? Should I be very serious in studying this prayer or not? Or is this a bona fide prayer for the devotees to study? We may even think like that because we have been trained rigidly, which is actually very good within ISKCON. But this prayer is actually glorifying in an indirect manner the Savishesha only, because Dhruva Maharaj is saying that even the impersonal Brahman is actually dependent on the personality of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right? So here Dhruva Maharaj is saying, Yasmin viruddhagatayaha hi anisham patanti vidyadayaha vividha shaktayaha anupurvyat. Yasmin means in whom viruddhagatayaha, opposite qualities or contradictory qualities, they find their resolution in that personality of Godhead. Right? So just like even I think in the third canto, Uddhava says in one of the prayers that karmanyani hasya bhavo bhavasyate durgashayothari bhayatpalayanam bhayatpalayanam. What is that? Durgashayothari bhayatpalayanam. I forget the third line. Kalatmano yat pramadayutashramah swatman rate khidyati dhir vidamiha. So in this prayer of Uddhava, he's submitting to the Lord that, you know, when common people say they see these kinds of contradictory qualities within the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they get completely bewildered. What are those qualities? He says, Anihasya karmani. The Lord never desires anything, but still he engages in work. Karmani, anihasya karmani. Iha means to desire for something, ihate. But the Lord doesn't desire anything, but still he engages in work. So those who don't study the Shastras properly in a bona fide parampara, they will get bewildered by these kinds of contradictory qualities in the Lord. Krishna explains the reason for this in the 3rd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Correct, na? Name parthasti kartavyam trishu lokeshu kinchana nanavaptam avaptavyam varta evacha karmani. He says, I have nothing to do in the 3 worlds. Name parthasti kartavyam. No work to be done. And nobody can assign any work to me. I can assign to everybody, but nobody can assign any particular work to me. Trishu lokeshu. In the 3 worlds, there is nothing to be done by me. Na anavaptam avaptavyam. There is nothing that I desire which need to be obtained. Generally, we all living entities engage in work. Why? Because they have some desire which need to be fulfilled. And therefore, they need the means to fulfill the desires, and therefore they engage in work. But the Lord, Krishna, doesn't have any such desire, and at his fingertips, everything is available. Therefore, it's called Satya Sankalpa. Satya Sankalpa means that as soon as it desires anything, it is available at his fingertips. So why does he need to work? Neither does he have material desire, nor does he have the nor does he have the incapacity to fulfill the desires. So there is no need for him to work at all. But still, varta evacha karmani. Why does he do the work? Because he explains, loka sangraham evapi sampashyan kartum arhasi utsideyurime lokaha nakuryam karma chedaham sankarasya chakartasyam upahanyam imah prajaha. He says in the 3rd chapter, if I don't do work, if I don't work in this world, what will happen is that the entire world, all the 3 worlds here refers to the Bhuloka, the Naraka Lokas, which are 7 in number, and the Swarga Lokas, which are 6 in number. Totally 14 planetary systems. The entire 14 planetary systems will be put to ruination. Utsideyuhu. Why? Because they see me as an example. And when somebody is seeing somebody as an example, if that person does not live up to the standards, immediately this person will lose hope. Right? We may have experienced this in our personal lives also. Right? Somebody whom we took as an example, whom we wanted to emulate in our lives. when he didn't live up to the standards even once, forget about repetitively, even once, if he just didn't live up to the standards, immediately we lose hope. We think that this is kind of a license for me to also engage in the same thing, because we are also wanting to do that only. We are also waiting for that many times, and then when we find an opportunity, immediately we jump at that, right? So therefore Krishna says that I am working for a particular reason, not for the reason why living entities are working in this world. So therefore Uddhava says that when general people, for example, same Uddhava says in the third canto also, that Krishna used to take all the tax reports and used to submit it to Ugrasena when he was in Mathura, till the time he shifted to Dwaraka. So this is completely bewildering, correct? So any person who tries to understand the absolute truth philosophically without understanding the purport behind them as given by Srila Prabhupada or other acharyas, they will get bewildered completely, right? So anihasya karmani abhavasya bhavaha. Abhava means what? One who does not have janma at all, one who does not have any birth. He has a janma according to the Srimad Bhagavatam, right? Of course, that janma is a divya janma. Therefore, Krishna says, Janma karma chame divyam. It is not a ordinary janma or an ordinary karma that Krishna is engaging in. But how is it divya? When we read the Srimad Bhagavatam, we understand. In the 10th canto, when Sri Krishna appears, Tamadbhutam balakam ambujekshanam chaturbhujam shankagadadyudayudham shrivatsalakshmam galashobi kaustubham Pitambaram Sandrapayoda Saubhagam. This is how Vasudeva saw Krishna, the first darshan of Krishna. Tam Adbhutam Balakam Ambuja Ikshanam. He had lotus like eyes. Generally, nobody, of course, for the mother in this world also, the child may seem to have lotus like eyes. But anyway, here it is saying Ambujekshanam Chaturbhujam. No, none of the children appear with 4 arms, right? Of course, Krishna appeared as 4-armed first, and then he converted to 2-armed form on the request of Devaki, because Devaki thought that even with 2 arms, I got 6 children, and they were killed by Kamsa. And if you come with 4 arms, it will be completely clear to Kamsa, and therefore he will not leave any stone unturned, and immediately he will engage in his cruel activity of trying to kill you. So therefore, Upasamhara, she said. But anyway, Chaturbhujam, Shankha Gadadyudayudham, he had all the 4 Shankha Gada, Shankha Chakra Gada Padma, everything with him. The conch shell, the discus, the mace, and the lotus flower on the 4 hands, right? Srivatsa Lakshmam, he had the Srivatsa mark on his chest. Dalashobi Kaustubh, he had the Kaustubhamani on his neck. Maharha Vaidurya Kirita Kundala Tvisha Parishakta Sahasra Kuntala Muddama Kanchangada Kankanadibir Virochamanam Vasudeva Ikshata. His form was resplendent. Virochamanam means his form was completely resplendent. We don't see any child taking his birth like this, right? No child comes with clothes, correct? No, Krishna had all the pitambara sapayoda saubhagam, as this verse says. So no child comes with its clothes. So therefore, we say that Krishna's birth is divya. How can we understand that? When we read the Shastras. But for common people, it is completely bewildering. That's what Uddhava is saying. Abhavasya bhavaha, bhavo bhavasyate. Then Durga Shrayothari Bhayat Palayanam. Bhayat. It seemed as if Krishna is very, very afraid. Kalatmanaha. Krishna, who is the controller of time itself, it seemed as if Krishna is afraid of Kalayavan. Kalatmana getting afraid of Kalayavan. Which is completely, which is contradictory and for us to understand, right? Kalatmanaha Durgashrayaha. Durgashraya means he ran and took shelter in the fort of Muchukunda. So those who don't study the 10th canto, and of course they also know that before that 17 times or 18 times Krishna already defeated, right? Jarasandha 17 times. 17 times. This was the 18th time. But still they want to somehow or other find one loophole in Krishna, right? So therefore, just like, I remember when I was in school, I used to study in history that how the Mughals conquered India, right? The first king to be conquered was Prithviraj Chauhan. What is his name? Prithviraj Chauhan. Prithviraj Chauhan, and he was attacked by Muhammad Ghori. You attacked him 18 times or 17 times, and then Prithviraj Chauhan let him go. Means he defeated him very easily. Prithviraj Chauhan defeated him and he let him go. And the 18th or the 19th time, he came back with a greater power. He swindled Prithviraj Chauhan by joining hands with his enemy, and then he attacked. At that point in time, Prithviraj Chauhan lost. So then everybody thinks that Prithviraj Chauhan is a very incompetent king. They forget that first 17 times or 18 times he defeated, right? So here we see Durgashtayah Athari Bhayat Palayanam, Aribhayat Palayanam. And then Kalatmano Yat Pramada Yutashamaha. Pramada refers to women. So Krishna associates with women in the middle of the night. And he is Swatmanrati. Swatmanrati means he takes pleasure in himself. Although he takes pleasure in himself, but still he associates with women, that too in the dead of the night, right? Those who don't understand the pastimes of the Rasa Leela, which are described in the 10th canto in the disciplic succession, which is not supposed to be told to everybody also. So they get completely bewildered by this. And it is explained that it is good that such people get bewildered. It is good that such people get bewildered because, I guess, I don't know, one of the acharyas, I guess Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur only, he explains that by this kinds of bewilderment to the atheists or the people who find faults with Krishna, Krishna protects the secrecy of his pastimes. Chakravarti Thakur explains. Because these secret pastimes should not be revealed to everybody. And because the atheists or the people who don't believe completely in Krishna, they disbelieve or they find faults with Krishna, that is like protecting the secrecy of Krishna's pastimes, so that the real reason behind his all his contradictory activities can be revealed only to the devotees. And it is not that devotees can also understand everything, right? Many times as devotees we get doubts also, right? Is Krishna partial or impartial? When everything is happening very nicely in my life, Krishna is impartial. But something went wrong, another devotee is getting something which I am not getting, surely Krishna is partial. So therefore Chaitanya Charan Prabhu says that Krishna is impartially partial. So he says that Krishna is actually partial to his devotees. There is no doubt about it, because we see in the Bhagavatam repetitively. But Krishna is impartial in the sense that he allows everybody to become his devotee. Therefore, he is impartial. But definitely is partial towards his devotees. We see that many times in the Bhagavatam, right? Just like His Grace Gauranga Prabhu gives this example, that in the 10th canto, who is the person who caused maximum destruction in Vrindavan? Which Asura was it? Who was the Asura who caused maximum destruction in Vrindavan? Anybody wants to take a chance? It's a very easy answer, right? Bakasur or Arishtasur? Arishtasur? Any other? Actually, none of the Asuras caused. Who caused maximum destruction was Indra. Right? During the Govardhana Leela, for 7 days and 7 nights, all the other pastimes got over within one single day, not even one single day. For our calculation, it is single day, but everything got over within a matter of few minutes, right? Whether it is Bakasura or Arishtasura also. But right, so, but Indra caused maximum destruction. And Krishna was, he was very ruthless in his punishment to all the Asuras. But to Indra, what did he do? He just called him, Aisa nahi karna hai kaam, and he sent him. Right? So is Krishna partial, impartial? This can also bewilder us. Therefore, Viruddhagatayaha. Viruddhagatayaha means that opposite or contradictory qualities, they find their complete, they can be resolved within the Supreme Personality of Godhead only for those who accept to be his devotees and those who study the character of Krishna through the Shastras, right? So Shastra Pramana is so important. Otherwise, of course, Shastra study the Krishna's character through the Shastras and from one's spiritual master, right? Only then these, contradictory qualities, we can be able to understand them. So Yasmin Viruddhagatayaha hi Anisham Patanti Vidyadayaha Vividha Shaktayaha. So Vidya and Avidya, they also find their resolution within Krishna. And Prabhupada is quoting in the purport the famous verse from Ishopanishad. Vidyamcha avidyamcha tad veda ubhayam saha. Avidyaya mrityum tirtva vidyaya amritam ashnute. That one should be inquisitive to have the knowledge of both Vidya and Avidya. In the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, where the 4 types of persons who surrender to Krishna are described. Artho Jignasuhu, Artharthi, Jnani cha Bharatarshava. These 4 are described. There, one of the acharyas, I don't remember, Chakravarti Thakur only, I guess, he says, what is the difference between Jignasu and Jnani? Because there doesn't seem to be a very big difference. Jignasu is inquisitive, Jnani is a person in knowledge. Is it that, they are almost the same? So then Chakravarti Thakur says that an inquisitive person is inquisitive, or he is curious to know only his path and to stick to his path. And an intelligent person who is a Jnani, he sticks to his path very firmly, but he has knowledge of all the other paths also. And that knowledge of all the other paths helps him to reinforce his faith in his own path. It is not that he's going to different directions and therefore you lose track. And there he's not there, na ghar ka, na ghat ka. Not like that. But he is having knowledge of different paths in order to stick to his path. The knowledge of the other paths makes him reinforced and makes him more and more convinced that my path is correct. Right? That is a Jnani. And Chakravarti Thakur tells this, I guess, in one of the verses in the 3rd canto also, Devahuti section. And when Devahuti wanted to hear about Jnana Yoga also, first Bhakti Yoga is described to Devahuti by Kapila Muni, and then Devahuti requests that I want to hear about Jnana Yoga. Then the question arises, already she got knowledge of Bhakti Yoga, then why is she wanting to know the knowledge of Jnana Yoga? Then the same Chakravarti Thakur writes that it is because she is extremely intelligent, a Jnani. And this Jnani, the Bhagavad Gita's Jnani, for example, Bahunam Janmanamante Jnani, that is not a Jnana Mishra Bhakta or a Jnani who wants to go to the impersonal Brahman. That Jnani is different. That Jnani is a complete person in knowledge of all the different attributes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right? So here we were discussing that, Vidyamcha Avidyamcha Tad Veda Ubhayam Saha. Veda means you should know, like that the Ishopanishad is saying. You should know Vidya also and you should know Avidya also. Why? Because Avidyaya mrityum tirtva. With the knowledge of Avidya, I find it difficult to translate as with the knowledge of ignorance. How is it translated in Ishopanishad? Because knowledge is opposite to ignorance, right? Anyway, the Sanskrit term everybody understands. So, with the knowledge of Avidya, one transcends this world. Nescience, nescience. With the knowledge of nescience, one can transcend this world because he knows where I should not go. Right? Just like Radheshamru, the last time he came, just a few days ago, he was saying in our Brahmachari class that in the Vedas and throughout the Vedic scriptures, it is generally noticed that the don'ts are mentioned before the do's. Just like in the Yoga Sutras also, Yama and Niyama. Yama is the don'ts and the Niyama is the do's. So when one understands the don'ts properly, then he knows very perfectly and he knows he's very sure within himself that I should never go to those directions. Why? Because many times, even if we have knowledge, the nescience attracts us still. Means the avidya attracts us still. So the don'ts are mentioned even before the do's. Just like Srila Prabhupada said that, for all devotees of the Krishna consciousness movement, there are four don'ts. Now, of course, Patanjali mentions other don'ts in the Patanjali Sutras, but for ISKCON devotees, Prabhupada said, no meat eating, no illicit sex, no intoxication, no gambling. And then Prabhupada said 16 rounds of Hare Krishna Maha, which is the Niyama. Yama comes before the Niyama. So, avidyaya mrityum tirtva. Tirtva means that he can transcend, he can go beyond the nescience through the knowledge of nescience. But he will not be able to go to the spiritual world through the knowledge of the nescience. Avidyaya mrityum tirtva vidyaya amritam ashnute. Only through the knowledge of Vidya will anybody attain the proper destination, which is the spiritual world. Right? So, here Srila Prabhupada is saying that the impersonal Brahman that is mentioned in this verse, is something like the knowledge of nescience. He is saying in the purport, right? When he is quoting this verse from the Ishopanishad, he is saying this. Why? Because he starts the purport by quoting Brahma Samhita, right? Yasya prabha prabhavato jagadanda koti kotishvashesha vasudhadi vibhuti bhinnam tad brahma nishkalam anantam ashesha bhutam govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. Actually, this verse is very similar to that verse. Just like there are many common words we can see. Just like the third line of this verse says, Tad Brahma. The third line of that verse also says, Tad Brahma Nishkalam. Instead of Nishkalam, there is Vishwabhavam here. Then there is Anantam, Adyam. So there are many common words. So what does that verse say? The verse says that Yasya Prabha. Prabha means the effulgence or the Prakasha. The effulgence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the source or is the resting place. Yasya Prabha Prabhavato Jagadanda Koti Kotishu. Koti Kotishu means crores and crores of Vasudhadi Vibhuti Bhinnam. Vasudha means it refers to a planet here. Generally, Vasudha refers to the Earth planet, but this refers to any planet here. So crores and crores of planets, they find their resting place in the impersonal Brahman. And that impersonal Brahman is not, coming from nowhere. It is actually coming from the Supreme Personality of Godhead only. And therefore, the knowledge of the impersonal Brahman, it is not that this knowledge of the impersonal Brahman is completely, completely against the Vedic literature or something like that, right? Because in the first canto itself, the sages of Naimisharanya make it clear, Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagavaniti, Shabdyate. The three stages of realization of the absolute truth, Brahma, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. And Prabhupada makes it clear that the Brahman realization is realization of the Sat feature of the Supreme Lord. Then Paramatma is Sat and Chit. And finally, Bhagavan realization is all the three, Sat, Chit, and Ananda. So, generally speaking, in the Vedic scriptures, this impersonal Brahman is described as a place which is eternal. And also, the person who goes there, generally, he doesn't return from there. I'll just clarify this. That generally it is mentioned in the Vedic scriptures, there are many references for this, that this impersonal Brahman is a place from which generally nobody returns. Because the feature of that place itself is eternity, Sat feature. But of course, Prabhupada quoted that famous verse, Enir Aravindaksha Muktamaninas Tvayasta Bhavat Avishuddha Buddhaya Aruhya Krichrena Parampadam Tataha Patantyadaha. This is very exceptional cases in which people return from the Brahman, impersonal Brahman. And one of the disciples of Srila Prabhupada, he was actually explaining that although this generally nobody returns from the impersonal Brahman, but Prabhupada presented this as if everybody who goes there, they fall from that region. Why is that? Because this place is very attractive to the conditioned souls. Because all of us, we want Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Right? Shanti mantras everybody likes whenever it is recited in Om Shanti Shanti. That other things nobody understands, but this everybody likes and they appreciate it also. Everybody wants peace, peace, peace. And in the impersonal Brahman, the entire impersonal Brahman is just the realization of this peace and the eternity. Therefore, it becomes very attractive to conditioned souls. So in order to de-glamorize this, because that glamour is very attractive. You see, in the recently concluded Kumbh Mela, one of the devotees who had gone there, one of our Sheshadripuram devotees, he was sharing that when he went to take that snan in the Amrit Snan, or I don't know what they call. So there, everybody was reciting the Shanti mantras. They were reciting they could not understand. This devotee could not understand everything, but the end, everything was Shanti, 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 like that. So everybody, actually, they get carried away by this. And there were thousands and crores of people, and those thousands and lakhs of yogis. Of course, general people, crores of them were there, but thousands of yogis were there, and everybody, they were together. It was very pleasing to hear. He was saying, together when they were taking the snan, they were not reciting Bhagavatam or anything. They were reciting the Shanti mantras. Why? Because in the general path, of course, we are all very fortunate right from the beginning of our spiritual journey, we came to ISKCON. So it became very easy for us. But a person who pursues the general path and he gets carried away, it is very difficult for him to lose that attraction for the impersonal Brahman. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada, in order to de-glamorize, means to take away that glamour, he said, hey, almost everybody, means everybody only. Who goes there, they will come back. Why do you want to go there and come back to this world? Right? So, anyway, so Vidyadayaha Vivikta Shaktayaha Anupurvyat. So, we were discussing that this Vidya and Avidya, both are important. And in this verse, what is referred to as Vidya is the impersonal Brahman, and Avidya is nothing but the, Avidya is impersonal Brahman, and Vidya is the true knowledge of the personality or the form and the attributes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So here, one more point that is very nicely mentioned by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, which is quoted in the purport, in the, I guess, the third paragraph of the purport. It goes like this. But when a person who is a little advanced and is therefore called a Jnani advances even more, he is in the category of a Jnana Mishra Bhakta, or a devotee whose love is mixed with empiric knowledge. So Srila Prabhupada is making clear in this purport by quoting Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur that these persons who go to the impersonal Brahman, they are also not ordinary. They are extremely advanced in their spiritual life. It is only then that they get that opportunity to go there, or even to get that desire to go there. Just like we have so many examples in the Srimad Bhagavatam itself of very, very elevated devotees who were impersonalists before, just like the speaker of the Bhagavatam himself, right? Srila Shukadeva Goswami, who was perfectly situated in transcendence before, and he had completely realized the impersonal feature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And it is only because of this father, Vyasa, and because Vyasa wanted to bring him back, it is only because of that Shukadeva Goswami came back, and he is the speaker of the Bhagavatam. Correct, na? So we know that story when Vyasa sent his disciples as woodcutters. So Vyasa, when he wanted to bring back Shukadeva Goswami, because for 16 years he was in the mother's womb, which is completely unimaginable for us. For 16 years, Shukadeva Goswami was in the mother's womb, Vyasa's wife's womb. And after 16 years also, it was only when Vyasa called Krishna from Dwaraka that, and Krishna convinced Shukadeva Goswami that even if you come outside the womb, you will not get carried away by Maya. Because Shukadeva Goswami, that was the reason why he was not coming out of the womb. As soon as I come out of the womb, the ignorance of this world will encapsulate me, and I will start, behaving like any other conditioned soul. And therefore, I'll get carried away by the illusory energy of the Lord. But when Krishna convinced him on the words of Vyasa, Shukadeva Goswami came out. But as soon as he came out, he started moving towards the forest. As he was moving, Vyasa was going behind him. And effectively, Vyasa could not run behind him ultimately, and he came back to his house. And then Vyasa got another idea that, this personality, my son, who is a very, very exalted yogi right now, he is attracted fully towards the impersonal feature of the Lord. Unless I give him a spiritual attraction which is even higher than that, he will not be coming back to my home. Why will he come back to my house? Right? If I give him any material attraction, why will he give him? Why will he come back? So therefore, he sent his disciples dressed as woodcutters. Dressed as woodcutters, they went to the same place where Shukadeva Goswami was sitting amidst the forest, and he was meditating. And then they went there, and as if, feigning means acting, as if they were cutting the wood. They recited 2 verses which Vyasa taught them, right? The first verse described the beauty of Krishna, and the second verse described the compassion or the mercy of Krishna. The first verse in the 10th canto, and the second verse in the 3rd canto. 10th canto verse is a very famous verse which describes the beautiful characteristics of Krishna's body. Barha pedam natavara karnayor karnikaram bibradvasaha kanakakapisham vaijayantim chamalam randhranvenor adhara sudhaya apurayan gopavrindaihi vrindaranyam swapadaramanam pravishad gita kirtihi. This is how Krishna comes back every single day after grazing the cows back to Vrindavan. Because he goes for grazing the calves or the cows outside Vrindavan, and when he comes back, Barha Pedam, Barha is the peacock feather. He has the peacock feather on his head. Parhapidam Natavara Vapuhu. He looks so enchanting, just like many of us were attracted at one point in time to cinema actors and actresses also, maybe. Natavara. So Nata refers to an actor also, right? Because of their beauty. So Krishna is the most beautiful. Natavara Vapuhu. Karnayoho Karnikaram. On both his ears, he is placing one very special flower called the Karnikara flower. Karnayo Karnikaram. Then, what is the second line? Karnayo Karnikaram. Bibhradvasaha Kanaka Kapisham. So Bibhrad is playing on his flute. And Kanaka Kapisham, he is wearing the Pitambara, which is almost like golden in color. So these wonderful characteristics of Krishna's body are described. And as soon as Shukadeva Goswami heard these characteristics, immediately got attracted. That because this was a characteristic of the person who is the source of the impersonal effulgence on which Shukadeva Goswami is meditating. And therefore, he got completely attracted and completely enchanted by this verse. He, one of the senior speakers one of the senior disciples of His Holiness Radha Govind Swami Maharaj was explaining that as soon as Shukadeva Goswami heard this verse, he opened his eyes to see who is reciting these verses. And he saw that these woodcutters are reciting, and he actually wanted to go and ask them, of whom are you describing? Whose description is in this verse? But then he closed his eyes again. Why? Because he was thinking that he may be a very beautiful and an enchanting person, but I may not have anything to do with him. He may not have anything to do with me either, right? He may be very, very beautiful, just like the so-called Shreshthas of today who are in society. For example, our Prime Minister. He is surely a very powerful personality, but I cannot have a one-to-one relationship with him, right? So therefore, he closed his eyes again. This is a very nice description. Now I'll go back to my meditation like that. And then the woodcutters understood, because they were seeing him. They were seeing him behind from behind the woods. So he opened his eyes, and then again he closed his eyes. So then they understood that he's getting attracted towards the personality of Krishna. And then immediately they told the second verse, which details the mercy, which entails the compassion of Krishna. Aho bakiyam stanakala kutam jighamsayapa yayadapya sadhvi lebhe gatim dhatri uchitantatonyam kamvadayalum sharanam brajema. Of what other shelter can I take? Uddhava is saying this verse to Vidura when he's describing the pastimes of Krishna in Vrindavan in the 3rd canto, 2nd chapter, I guess. So he's saying that Kamvadayalum Sharanam Brajema, which other person is there than Krishna for me to take shelter of? Why? Because Aho is used in very, very extraordinary circumstances. Aho Bakiyam Stanakala Kutam. Iyam Baki means this Baki, who is the elder sister of Bakasura. Elder sister, na? Putana is the elder sister of Bakasura. Therefore, she is called Baki. Stanakala Kutam. She surfaced her breast with the most poisonous material called Kalakuta, which even one drop of which is enough to vanquish an entire city. It is explained. I think Bhaktivinoda Thakur or somebody says, one drop of that Kalakuta is enough to vanquish one entire city. And she had completely, smeared her breast with that most poisonous material. And then Stanakala Kutam, Jighamsa Yapa Yadapya Sadhvi. Jighamsa means she was so cruel. She was so cruel that she was. This was not the first time she attempted this. She had already killed many, many children before. Many children before by the most cruel means. And she came to Vrindavan, and what did Krishna do? Krishna gave her the topmost of position. Dhatri means the nurse to Mother Yashoda in the spiritual world. So now whose other shelter can I take? Which other shelter can I take? So this goes to show the mercy or the compassion of Krishna. So when Shukadeva Goswami heard this, he opened his eyes not to close. Of course, he may have blinked again, but he went and confided to the woodcutters that, who are you? Then they revealed, actually we are, feigning this woodcutter dress, but actually we are the disciples of your own father. And then when Shukadeva Goswami heard, hey, my father, I left him and came to the forest, but my father has much more to offer to me than what I am engaged in right now. And then immediately he went back and he learned the Srimad Bhagavatam. And in the 1st canto, Shukadeva Goswami says that I learned this Bhagavatam, first canto or second canto, I don't remember. I learned this Bhagavatam from my father, right? So this goes to show that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the resting place of the impersonal Brahman. And the impersonal Brahman is not something that is not Vedic or something like that. Many times we may get that understanding because we have so much heard about this, that we may get the understanding that the persons who are wanting to go to the impersonal Brahman, they should be treated as going to hell, right? So because we have heard that Mayavada Bhashya Shunile Haila Sarvanash. In one of the purports in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Prabhupada explains the difference between Brahmavadis and Mayavadis. Brahmavadis are those who have the goal of going back to the impersonal Brahman, and they don't commit any offenses at all to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And many of them are aware that the Brahman is also coming from the Supreme Personality of Godhead only. They are aware of that, but still they have their goal. Because the impersonal Brahman offers eternity. One of the students was asking me a few weeks back that if impersonal Brahman, everything is eternal, then why if one goes to impersonal Brahman, if there is no relish of the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and there is no positive attractions in the impersonal Brahman, why will anybody want to stay there for eternity? Like that he was asking me. Because we know that the Vishesha is only in the spiritual world. Impersonal Brahman is like coming from negative axis to zero, and from zero to positive axis is going to the spiritual world. So why will anybody why will anybody lose that attraction, and why will anybody want to stay there forever? That was the question. So I asked one of the senior devotees from Chopati temple. He told me, just like many of us, even though we got knowledge of the highest knowledge of Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam, still we are not eager to relinquish this world. We are not eager to relinquish this world and go back to spiritual world. Still we have attraction for this world only. Although we have heard hundreds and thousands of lectures, but still we have attraction to this world. So similarly, people who in the impersonal Brahman, they don't have the dukkha or the miseries of this world. So why will they want to leave it? And in exceptional circumstances, as Srila Prabhupada says, they will come back to this world also. That is in exceptional circumstances. So this path of the Brahmavad, they actually have this as their goal, that they want to go back to the impersonal Brahman. Or if not go back to, they want to go there. And the Mayavadis are little different. Not little different, actually completely different. The Mayavadis are those who actually say that the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead itself is Maya. And this world is Maya. Everything that we see is Maya. Right? So therefore, Srila Prabhupada calls the Mayavadis as covered Buddhists. Because Buddhists say that everything is Shunya. Sarvam Shunyam. Everything is Shunya. Nothing actually exists. We are only getting the experience that something exists. Like that Buddhists say. And the Mayavadis, they go one step ahead. And they say that everything is Maya. Therefore, such Mayavadis, they go to hell. But these Brahmavadis, they don't go to hell. Right? So they go to the impersonal Brahman because they have no offensive mentality at all. True Brahmavadis. Right? So that is described in this verse. So these kind of people who get attracted towards the impersonal Brahman, they are described over here as Jnana Mishra Bhaktas. This is a term that is coined by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. For those of us who have read the Sarartha Varshini commentary of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, very beautifully he explains the entire the yoga ladder in reference to these three terms. He says that there is somebody called, there are people called, there is one path called Pradhani Bhuta Bhakti, and there is another called Guni Bhuta Bhakti. Pradhani Bhuta Bhakti, Guni Bhuta Bhakti, and then finally Shuddha Bhakti. First comes Guni Bhuta Bhakti, then Pradhani Bhuta Bhakti, and finally Shuddha Bhakti. Guni Bhuta Bhakti means that there is the mixture of bhakti with one of the other paths, but which is in major quantity, is the other path is in major quantity, and bhakti is just like just like the ingredient, just like surfacing, just like for when we cook something, we just add something for getting a flavor, right? So like that, because without the bhakti, no path can actually fetch its result. Is explained in the commentary of the Bhagavad Gita, that no path can give result without at least some element of bhakti. Therefore, Gunibhuta Bhakti means that, for example, Bhakti Mishra Karma. That is Gunibhuta Bhakti. That means Bhakti is Mishrita. The main path is karma only, but Bhakti is added over there, just like surfacing. Or Bhakti Mishra Jnana. All this is Gunibhuta Bhakti. When one goes through this path, then when he gets sufficient realization, then he will come to the path of Pradhani Bhuta Bhakti. Pradhani Bhuta means that Bhakti will be Pradhan there. Just like here it is explained, Jnana Mishra Bhakta. This is Pradhani Bhuta Bhakti. That means that the Jnana element is less, but the Bhakti element is more. But still, that Bhakti is not Shuddha Bhakti. It's like Rupa Goswami gives the definition of Shuddha Bhakti, right? Anyabhilashita Shunyam Jnana Karma Dhanavritam Anukulena Krishnanu Shilanam Bhakti Ruttama. This is the definition of pure Bhakti. But Pradhani Bhuta Bhakti means still some, some Mishrana is there, either of karma or jnana or yoga. So this kind of a person who is attracted towards the impersonal Brahman, he comes on this platform. That's what Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying. He is not an outright materialist. He is neither is he a Gunibhuta Bhakta, for whom bhakti is like just the minor portion of that particular path. No, but he is actually a bhakti yogi, but he has some so-called contamination of jnana, and therefore his attraction towards the impersonal Brahman, he is not able to get over that. And therefore, such person, when he quits his body, he will go back to the impersonal Brahman. So, Prabhupada is explaining that this impersonal Brahman is the effulgence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But Prabhupada also makes it clear that devotees need not, and should not aspire for going back to the impersonal Brahman. They need not aspire, and in fact, they should not aspire. Why they should not aspire for that is because the attraction towards that path, it will be difficult to come out of that attachment once we develop even slight attachment to that process, right? Because all of us are undergoing untold difficulties within this world, and when we hear that there is such a place where there is no difficulty, without any miseries, no dukkha whatsoever, right? Dukkhalayam ashashvatam, dukkhalayam ashashvatam. So many times we heard that if we hear then there is no sukha, but at least there is no dukkha, right? Then we want to go to that place and stay there for eternity. And this is actually a fall. It's a very great trap for the bhakti yogis or for the devotees. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada de-glamorized the process and told us that we need not aspire for this thing, which is mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So to conclude, the different adjectives mentioned over here, like I'd just like to tell about them and conclude this today's Bhagavatam presentation. So the different adjectives that are mentioned about the Brahman over here. What are the adjectives? That Brahma Vishwabhavam. Vishwabhavam is one of the adjectives. That is the cause of the material manifestation. Why? Because all the material planets, according to Brahma Samhita, they are actually resting on the impersonal Brahman. And impersonal Brahman is not something that is unrelated to the Supreme Lord, but is actually the effulgence of the Supreme Lord. And therefore, Vishwabhavam means that actually indirectly it is referring to the Supreme Lord only, right? Vishwabhavam. Ekam. So therefore they say, Prabhupada called it undifferentiated, because there is nothing like the second Brahman. There's only one Brahman. Impersonal Brahman, effulgence is the same. And in the Ishopanishad, we know that famous verse also, where the devotee is praying, Hiranmayena patrena satyasya pihitam mukham. What is that after that? Tattvam poshan apavritam satya dharmaya drishtaye. So I want you to please remove that effulgence that is actually covering your beautiful bodily features from my sight. Like that, one pure devotee prays to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? So therefore, the Brahman is Ekam. Ekam means that one, undifferentiated. Ananta means it is unlimited. You cannot even imagine the extent of its how much it stretches. Then Adyam is its original. Ananda Matram. So now here we may think that just now we heard that impersonal Brahman means only Sat feature, right? So many times we have to understand that in scriptures some words are used contextually. This Ananda doesn't refer to that Sachidananda here, the Sachidananda that we know, right? This Ananda refers to that which is completely in relative manner, that which is completely Ananda. For people in this world, for that impersonal Brahman is Ananda. So Ananda Matram, Avikaram, it never changes. Aham Prapadye. So I bow down to that personality from whom the impersonal effulgence emerges, which has all these characteristics mentioned over here. So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives a beautiful example, which you just read in the purport, which Srila Prabhupada is quoting, that we have heard this example and related examples also many times from Srila Prabhupada, right? So just like when one is approaching a far off city, from the far, as they say in Kannada, Durada Betta Nunnage, they say. From far, everything looks very nice. When we go little ahead and we go near, then everything appears in its true form, right? So from a far distance, it appears as if everything is, very perfectly formed. It's in a good shape. The city is in a good shape, like that we think. But as we approach, so that is like the impersonal Brahman realization, which is like realization of that effulgence, which is actually quite far from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? So as we go near, as we go get a little near, we begin to see things somewhat distinctly, right? Just like we may see a few buses moving here and there, and we may see some trees and some grass, but still everything is not clear. So that is like the Paramatma realization. But it's actually when we enter that city and we see everything in its true form, only then we will get to know all the details of that city. So that is like the Bhagavan realization. Srila Prabhupada gives this example of the mountain also, and then he also gives the example of the sun and the sunlight. There is the sunlight, there is a sun planet, and there is a sun god. Sunlight is like the impersonal Brahman. Then there is sun planet is like the Paramatma, and then sun god, who is a Vivaswan, to whom Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita, which is mentioned in the 4th chapter. That person, so if one wants to have a one-to-one relationship with God, he cannot have with the impersonal Brahman. Prabhupada says in one of the lectures, he cannot have one-to-one relationship with impersonal Brahman. So he needs the personality to take shelter of. So this is mentioned in this verse. So it is almost time. So I'd like to end the presentation over here. I thank everybody for paying a patient ear to today's Srimad Bhagavatam verse. If I have committed any mistakes while presenting this, I would like to seek forgiveness. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Question. I can hear Prabhuji. Yeah. That's why I said I can. Yes. It's working.
It's working?
Yeah.
I'm not
volume is low. Volume is low.
Okay. So there are two important aspects to that particular shloka, which you, sorry to say that, two things which needed to be highlighted to understand the impersonal and the personal form of the Lord. One thing is the people who are on the path of this impersonal Brahman, they are classified as Avishuddha Buddhayaha.
Yeah.
And the last part of the shloka you forgot to mention.
Patantyadho Anadhrita Yushmadangraya. Anadhrita Yushmadangraya.
They keep falling again and again.
Yes.
Because they forgot to hold on to the lotus feet of the Lord.
Yes.
Okay. So this.
Thank you very much. This
is what I just wanted to
what Prabhuji said is perfect. I wanted to say that, somehow it skipped my mind. So the people who want to go back to the impersonal Brahman, they don't have clarified intelligence. They don't have clear intelligence. That's explained there. And they fall back as long as they disrespect the Angri. Angri means the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. As long as they disrespect or they commit offenses towards the Supreme Lord or towards his devotees, they will fall back. That is explained in this. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Yes.
Krishna Prabhuji,
Keep sitting. Yeah.
you mentioned that Lord is partial towards his devotees, and you have given the example of Govardhan Leela. But we see that all the demons who were killed by Lord attained liberation, whereas Indra was still in the clutches of
Yeah, thank you for the higher understanding. This is a true devotional understanding, which is highlighted over here. Yeah, from an external perspective, it is that, but from a devotional perspective, what is mentioned is true. But still, the demons who were killed, they didn't go back to the spiritual world immediately. Also, right? They went back. They went to they got Sayujya Mukti, and then after that, they went back to the spiritual world. And this actually highlights one thing, that the principle of Anukulyena, which is discussed in the verse of Rupa Goswami. The demons, so it is mentioned, all of us who have studied Bhakti Shastri, we know that the principle of Anukulyena is one of the primary characteristics of Bhakti. Anukulyena and Anushilanam are two primary characteristics, and the Ananyabhilashita Shunyam and Jnana Karma Dhyanavritam are secondary characteristics. That means that without the primary characteristics, we cannot define Bhakti at all. Secondary characteristics are like, enhancing that Bhakti. So it is mentioned there, Srila Prabhupada explains that, did Kamsa, for example, he actually pleased Krishna. Correct, no? Why? Because he engaged in Veera Rasa with Krishna. He actually pleased Krishna. Actually, Krishna was very pleased to fight with Kamsa. But this is not Bhakti, right? Because it doesn't have the favorable mood. Therefore, this is not Bhakti. So now the demons who were killed by Krishna, they got liberation, while the devotees stayed back in this world. So this is that kind of an understanding only, that the demons, they got liberation, but they were not having a favorable intent towards Krishna either, and Krishna bestowed that liberation on them, right? And on the other hand, generally when we hear of the personality of Indra, we think of a very, very negative character. But actually, it is not the case. Indra is a devotee of the Supreme Lord, and he is a Karma Mishra Bhakta. Karma Mishra means he has a lot of material attachment, but still is Pradhanurupena Bhakti only. Means he is a devotee only. But he has some material attachments still with him. He is not able to get over them. So when Krishna is bestowing this kind of mercy to Indra, it is a true, genuine mercy towards Indra that is bestowing. And we have not seen the positive side of Krishna, of Indra. Just like when in the Prahlad Maharaj section, it is explained that when the Indra came to actually kill Kayadu, when Hiranyakashipu had gone for meditation or for tapasya, then Indra came to kill, and then Narad Muni came there to indicate to Indra that actually the womb of Kayadu contains the best of all devotees. Bhagavatottama is there, therefore you should not kill. Then Indra immediately he accepted that, right? So that is one of the instances where Indra's good positive side is shown, right? So Indra, we should always understand the difference. So when we read the 16th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, it becomes very clear that Indra is actually a devotee, right? So of course, the mercy of Krishna is actually highlighted. What you're saying is true. Thank you. Hare Krishna. I think we are running short of time. Yeah. Yes. You can tell. Yeah. It's not working. I'll repeat the question. Yeah, you can tell. I'll repeat the question. Yeah, you go ahead. Okay, this is a good question. If somebody hears about Goloka Vrindavan, why would they still prefer to go to impersonal Brahman? What comes to my mind, I'm just sharing, others can add. So, one is that they've already started their process. Once anybody starts any process, while before he starts the process, he has the goal to achieve. Correct, na? Before starting any process, our goal is made clear. Prayojana is made clear. So once anybody starts the process, even if they hear that there is something more elevated than that, just like somebody begins preparation for CET examination, then on the way he hears actually IIT can fetch you better jobs than this, other local colleges. Then, but he cannot come back and now I start IIT preparation. After a half year is already over. Now he cannot start that, right? So he has made his goal clear already. So now, although he hears that, he doesn't develop sufficient attraction because he already started that process. He has attachment for the process. He also has attachment for the goal. So why will he start another process even though he understands that something is superior? So this can be applied to every path actually. Just like why do, for example, when Mahaprabhu went to the south and he met the other Sampradaya devotees, after hearing from Mahaprabhu, still they continued there? We may get that question. It can be applied to anything. Once we start the process, we are in the process, our shelter is fixed. We don't want to come out of that process. We may understand that there is something higher and we will accept that and still continue that process. Correct. I don't know if this is answer. Anybody wants to add? Want to add? You want to add something? Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yeah, this is another very powerful reason actually, that the positives of this world, the negatives of this world don't seem to be positives in their mirror reflection in the spiritual world. Just like it is explained that the Madhurya Rasa is the highest in the spiritual world, but when it is in the perfected reflection in the world, in this world, it appears to be the lowest. It is the lowest. So when we see the lowest and we see the apparently same thing in Krishna, hey, how is this? That means Krishna is immoral. We think like that. Yeah. Yes. Thank you. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Service to the Lord is missing. So when therefore Prabhupada says that the Mayavada Bhashya, it cuts away our service attitude, and therefore we should not hear that lecture, like that Srila Prabhupada mentions. Okay, maybe just one more question we'll take, and because it's getting late. Yes, ma'am. Well, chapter. Yeah. Okay, so how is the impersonal realization hard? It is definitely hard. Kleshodhikatarastesham avyakta sakta chetasam. Those who have developed their attraction, asakti towards the avyakta, because they don't have a form to meditate on. Our mind can, meditate when we have a form to meditate on, right? Even in the Patanjali Sutras, Patanjali explains that the ultimate stage of samadhi is attained when samadhi siddhir ishvara pranidhanat. This is one sutra. In the third part of the Patanjali Sutras, he says, one can attain samadhi stage only by Ishvara Pranidhana. Ishvara Pranidhana means meditating on a form, a suitable form of the Lord, whichever form attracts us. So the question is that how is it difficult? The difficult because it's the same reason, because it is there is no particular form on which to meditate on. So therefore it is difficult. What was the question exactly, Mother? Is the question? Uh, uh. Yeah. So how is the practice difficult, you're saying? You're asking. No? Yeah, it is definitely difficult. But that does not dissolve the fact that people get attracted towards that. Just like when a person hears the same example I'm giving, I'm sorry, that somebody hears that IIT can fetch you a job of 1 crore rupees. He's attracted towards that, right? Everybody is attracted. But in order to get that, he has to toil for 2 years. No, these days it's starting from class 8, I heard. And he probably knows. Class 6, assistant. So attraction is developed naturally. But the path will be difficult, much more difficult for the how much difficulty is there in the path. Only a person who has gone through that, they can tell you, right? So that's what I can think of right now. Yeah, fine. Should we end now? Yeah. This is also good reason. Yeah, some people are challenging by nature. So the same example, somebody hears about the IIT, but they are ready to take everything, whatever they are ready to study 12 hours a day or 14 hours or maybe even 24 hours a day. They are ready to take that challenge. So Brahman realization is difficult, but still people are ready to take that challenge. And when devotees go and tell them, hey, this is much more easier, and it will fetch you a much bigger destination also, much better destination, but they are not ready to accept that, because they will tell you, give me enough challenge within your path, then I will come to your path. Then we should give them, okay, you study the Bhagavatam and something like that. Okay, so
Prabhuji,
yes,
sorry. One more addition which I heard from Chaitanya Charan Prabhu.
yeah.
So what Mataji was saying, how this is hard. So apart from bhakti, all other paths, not only impersonalism, everything, the onus is on the sadhaka. He has to endeavor. He has to clinch to the tapasya, whatever it is. Whereas bhakti, a person gives little effort and it is like magnet. Lord pulls him by his own attraction. That's why it is very easy. That's why Lord is addition to that Prabhu's thing. The sense of ego is there in other paths. They want to achieve, they have the false ego. Whereas in bhakti, the first principle is you become Drona, the dissolution. That's
dissolved
why devotees don't have. That's why, what that shloka is. Krishna Bhakta Ek Nishkam Atayeva Shant.
Bhukti Mukti Stuti Kami Sakale Ashant. Thank you very much. Yes, Prabhu, we can end after that. Yeah, the last comment. Yeah.
I'd like to add a very important point here. In the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, this particular aspect is explained very much in detail, particularly in the Tapoloka, to make us all understand how difficult it is to tapas. In the Tapoloka, there is no personal form of the Lord. Everybody creates his own imaginary form and fails miserably. This aspect has been explained by Sanatana Goswami in Brihad Bhagavatamrita.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. We'll end over here. So any other discussions we can take after that. Thank you very much. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Let us all thank Prabhuji for the wonderful churning that we had. We had His Grace Kaustubh Ramanujam Prabhu giving the English class, and His Grace Chaitanya Prasad Prabhu giving the Kannada class. Let us all thank Prabhuji and express our gratitude by loudly chanting once Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna.